Alafia, aho, ase, namaste, and blessings to all. Ashe to you, and you. Thank you for watching Shadow of Wolves. Remember, I don't solicit anyone for readings or ceremonies or anything to do with spiritual work unless you reach out to me and my spirits agree on whatever needs to be done. In continuum, be careful with scammers. Let's talk about the language of Orisha. And stay tuned for part 2, the language of spirits, as well as Egun, Ache, and blessings. This video was meant to be made a long time ago. However, it is here right on time now. Why? Because so many of you have had experiences, as well as myself. So many of you have had so many different instances of confusion going on as far as the language of Orisha. Let's go over the boundaries of Orisha as well. When it comes to Widos, tambors, anyas, fundamentos, and so forth. Let's talk about that. So in part 2, we will also talk about the language of spirits, as well as Egun. Let's begin. Let's start by the origination and why we are covering this. There have been so many different people who have been ordained, have been crowned, not marked, but crowned. They will go to tambors or widows and so forth. And sometimes they have had their Orisha come down. Not only does the Orisha have to receive something called an Ache first, but also there's certain things that have to be done that I'm not mentioning in order for that Orisha to speak through that person who is crowned with that Orisha. So let me make it clear. Say, for example, a child of Obatala is what we call mounted in a tambor, in a drumming for Orisha. Let's make this clear for Orisha. That's where the boundaries is concerned that we're going over. Or that child of Obatala gets mounted, for example, in what we call an anya. There's a difference between wido, tambor, and anya. Anya is the oldest, one of the oldest Orisha, where you see them playing the drums with two sides and they are dressed up. Those who are crowned are presented to the drum, okay? First, they are presented. That's a ceremony itself, so that drum recognizes them. What did we say? Those who are crowned are presented to that drum. Normally, the ceremony is after they do something called ebometa. I know it sounds confusing, so rewind and come again. Let's go back. The language of Orisha, when that child of Obatala, for example, is mounted with Obatala after they have received their Ache and so forth, and they speak. What is the language of Orisha? Well, let's begin with where Orisha come from. This is an African religion from Nigeria, correct? Yes. It is an African religion from Ketu, Benin, Dahomey, and so forth. Comes from Africa. Africa was divided into different parts, everywhere. Different parts, as we know, it became divided. So did the language. So when those who were crowned in Orisha faith, and blessings to all Babalaos, and blessings to all of those ancestors who were crowned in Orisha faith, they came to the new land during the time of slavery. Some were sent directly to Brazil. Some were sent directly to Cuba. Some were sent to the United States, and they managed to hold on to those secrets and hold on to some of the language. What changed the language? It's the human being that changed the language, because the language originally of Orisha not only is of Yoruba, but also for us is Lukumi. So what is the problem when people are being mounted the Orisha? and the Orisha is speaking, we cannot justify and say, oh, this Orisha is speaking Spanish or English, so the Orisha is not there. The Orisha will be with whoever they want, who is crowned when the time has come, one Orisha. So let's just stick with the head Orisha, which is Obatala. Let's give an example. Your Orisha comes down and you are crowned Obatala. You have received your Ashe, you have done your Ebometa, and you're in a Wido. Let's give a Wido, a tambor, meaning a drumming, a bembe. And Obatala comes down to speak through you, whether you are female or male, as long as you are crowned in Orisha faith. Those prayers of Lukumi were surrounded around you when you were getting crowned. So in the language of Orisha, originally, yes, it belongs to Yoruba and so forth. However, the language of Orisha is going to speak with the person's Ori has been birthed with. So if the person is from Puerto Rico or Cuba, you will hear that Orisha, and I've heard it. I've been to many drummings. They will speak Spanish, but they'll speak some Lukumi as well. And they may speak in some Yoruba language. However, let me dispel all the negativity. There's a lot of people who are with blessings to them, yes, that are coming in back to their roots. A lot of African American people, a lot of people from Panama, Trinidad, Guyana, Brazil, and they are speaking English. So why is it that if they're speaking English, it is a problem that Orisha is not there? First of all, speaking Spanish is the language of the Spanish colonizers. That's why we call it Inquisition, Spanish Inquisition. So is English. So do you expect that person who is crowned and who is mounted with the Orisha to come down completely speaking Yoruba language? No. Purely and precisely, Yoruba language is right there in Africa. And it's so beautiful. But those who are crowned here in the United States or in Trinidad or in Cuba, they are going to speak the language that their Ori is born with. So, for example, a child of Ochun, if she comes down, Maferefun Ochun, through the person that she is crowned, her son or her daughter, they're going to speak Spanish or English. Let's remember where this language came from. It does not belong to Hispanic-speaking people. It does not belong to English-speaking people or those who speak Mandarin. It really belongs to Africa. However, it does not mean because the Orisha is speaking Spanish or English that they are not there. Because I have not yet met someone who can speak pure Yoruba language unless they're directly from Africa. So when we get crowned, we are getting crowned with blessings. There are people, if it's a Sheshe, there are people who are African American or who are crowned in Sheshe that are going to speak the Sheshe language, and they're going to speak the English when they're doing certain things and giving us blessings. Those who are crowned, they're speaking in English. When I am doing blessing and I am in the Ocha and I'm blessing someone's head, I'm speaking to them in English. I do my Yuba in Yoruba language and Lukumi because that's what I was taught. But the crown that is being born is hearing the language of all those crowns that are there in their ceremony. And they are being birthed. So we cannot disrespect those who are, you don't know. You cannot disrespect. I have a story to tell you, and I love this. There is a beautiful child of Agayu. That's it. Agayu. There's two of them that I know. One is somewhere in his late 70s, 80s, and his Agayu was down. That means that he was mounted. He was possessed with Agayu, right? Ache. And the person took a cigarette butt and they put it in his back. They burnt him because they didn't think Agayu was there. And he turned around and he said, just for you burning this body, I'm going to make sure Chosi Motupwe gives you 10 to 15 years in jail. Person still didn't take it seriously. Well, guess what happened? Years went by. This was in New York, and he saw that same individual in the church, and the man said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, your Agayu came down and I disrespected him. I did time in jail." He was like, "Well, what are you talking about?" He said, "Oh, I don't know. That's between you and Agayu." Che, we are not here to say what Orisha is there and what is not. We are there to respect the person's crown. When the person is being crowned, I can't speak in blessings to Isheshe, Falukumi, and Santeria. Everybody in that room is praying over that person's Ori, that initiate, that godchild, that Yabo's Ori. And when they are doing that and they're giving blessings, some are doing that in Spanish when they say they Moyuba, and then they're speaking and giving them blessings in Spanish. All those people that are crowned are there. Now, to say it's the wrong crown of this because we didn't do the crowning or ceremony is also disrespectful. Because there's an Oba there, there's Babalaos there, there's people that are crowned there, and they're putting blessing on and Ache on that head, on that Ori, on that Leri, and blessing. So to disrespect and say, "Oh, this Yemaya that's coming down is speaking English or Spanish, I don't respect it." Those who are coming into this faith with blessing from you, don't give up hope. When you feel it and you are crowned, you did your Ebo Meta and blessings to you. You have the guidance and the blessing of your elders. You do not be scared of what people think when you want to bring Chango down, ma Fedefun Kabiosile. Your Chango will come down when he's ready to come down, and he speaks English. They better respect Chango. They better moforibai. They better throw themselves and respect Chango. Ache Chango. Now there's another child that a beautiful elder. He is crowned Agayu. When his Agayu comes down, he speaks Spanish, Lukumi, and he may speak some Yoruba. I've seen him speak. This is the energy of the Orisha to the Ori of that crown that has been born. Why did it happen this way? Let's go into that. Ache. Why? From slavery, during the transatlantic slave trade, people were beaten and forced to worship also, but to not, I don't want to say worship, to worship God. Yes, of course, God comes first. Olo Dumare, we say. They were forced to worship saints, so they had to hide them. If they got caught even saying, Mayuba Lofi, Mayuba Lo Dumare, Mayuba Olorum, they got one thing of that. Or they came from another land of Africa and they spoke, they will be beaten, they will be punished, they will be tortured. So how the language changed also is they had to make sure and say, okay, I'm not worshiping or I'm not giving praise to Chango. I'm understanding and praising Santa Barbara and blessings to Santa Barbara. I am not looking, I'm not saying anything with Ochun, but I am giving blessings to Caridad de Cobre. So that's how the language changed. The language was beaten out of the people. If you look in the movie Kunta, I think it's Kunta Kente, he was beaten until he said his name was Toby. The language was beaten out of a lot of people. So this is why you hear some people when they are, even say in Mississippi, they're crowned in Orisha faith. You may hear Southern drawl. Respect that Orisha. One more story to tell you. There was and I love to listen to elders. There was a woman, she was crowned Yemaya in New York. And people said, oh, that Yemaya is not there. They used to call her 747. It was a group of people making fun and making joke of this Yemaya. And after they left the drumming, they got in a really bad car accident. They wasn't there. It's not our job to say what Orisha is there or not. Now, why do more elders attend Anyan Fundamento? Is because the Fundamento has such strong energy when they're playing. The Anya lives inside of the drum, and it calls to the prayers of heaven to bring the Orisha down in respect to Orisha. So when I said boundaries, you're not going to find with all blessing Apollo Egun or a Francisco or a San Jose or a Siete Rayo in Orisha drumming. There are boundaries. You're not going to see a spirit in Orisha drumming. Orisha, not spirit. There are boundaries. The only energy that comes down in drummings of Widos for Orisha, tambors, if you'd like to say, bembes, when they're playing the drum, you'll see them playing the drum that is played for Orisha, are Orisha. And it doesn't have to go by order. Oh, you're a child of Eligua, so you're supposed to come down first. Oh, why is Eligua coming down at the end towards the end? They can come down whenever they want to. And it has to be respected. Now, how do you know if it's a red flag? If it's something really, really bad that person is doing, or something provocative, that's not Orisha. Orisha is very holy. It's time that we stop thinking and following the movies that they're evil. They are very holy. They are angels. Okay? They follow the Ashe of Olodumare and Olofi. So who is to say that disrespect? There's one of the biggest santeros that is crowned almost 100 people, with all respect. It's not about crowning, right? But he is really big, and he has a big ile, and he's highly respected. He's crowned Achosi. I've heard his Achosi speak English, and that is just fine. The Orisha is going to speak to that person based on the Ori, and it deserves respect. So the same way that we say, okay, you know what, this Orisha is not speaking Spanish. Spanish was the language of those who have killed and murdered the Africans, and was Spanish, and it's not really pure Spanish, because pure Spanish is from Spain. That's the pure Spanish. Spanish is the language of the conquerors of that time. English is the language of the conquerors. So for everybody to come together, do know that Orisha is for every color, race, and size and ethnicity. There are people being crowned Orisha in China. Believe it. Yes, look it up. And when their Orisha comes down, say, for example, their Agayu comes down, they're going to speak Chinese, because that's the language with of their Ori. The Lukumi is also intertwined in there, because I've seen it. Because when we are crowned, the prayers of Lukumi, the prayers are so beautiful of Yoruba faith that there is no need to disrespect this. So those of you who speak English, those of you who feel like, oh, why am I? No, don't give up hope. Do know that we're doing a part 2 of this in respect to the language of ancestors, muertos, if you'd like to say, spirits, and of Egun. Now, once again, study, practice. Do know there is a way. When there's an anya or fundamento, those who were not introduced to the anya, patiently be, if your godparent allows, somewhere on the side. Dancing in front of the drum is disrespectful to the anya. It's very sacred. Anyone who touches that drum and is ministrating is disrespectful to the anya. We have to respect the anya. It's very sacred, okay? We have to respect when people are crowned, not to say, oh my God, she has long blonde hair, she's a child of Ochun. That could be her muerto, that could be her Egun. Respected, the spiritual court comes first before Orisha. And people have no business doing this. When I heard that this child of Chango came down and she was speaking English and was disrespected, that's very, very sad. Because the Orisha, somebody sacrificed and paid their blood and sweat and cried the tears for them to come down to know, okay, you speak. No, the real language, honey, that you need to learn, if you don't speak in Yoruba faith, like I've heard them speak directly in Africa, not in this land of America, or Candomblé, they're speaking Portuguese. Ochosi comes down in Candomblé, he's going to speak Portuguese, honey. So you need to respect when a person is mounted with the Orisha, and whatever they're saying needs to be respected. I'm tired of the racism and the disrespect amongst people. It needs to stop. and we need to respect Orisha. When we're having an Orisha drumming, there are boundaries. Only Orisha comes down in Orisha drummings with blessing and blessing to you. And stay tuned for part 2 of the language of Egun, the language of spirits, with blessings to you, and happy Earth Day. Happy Earth Day. And do know, please, we must respect Mother Earth. Alafia, aho, I say namaste. And thank you for watching Shadow of Wolves. And ashe and blessings to